Now it is my pleasure to introduce our session and our speaker for today. Today's session is titled Understanding the Value of Pavement Preservation for County and Municipal Roadway Maintenance Operations. I would like to thank our branches across the state for hosting group viewings. As the State Association for Civil Engineers, we are happy to provide this service to the engineering community. If you are not a member of ASCE or the Texas section, I invite you to become a member so that you can benefit from being a part of this professional association. All right, now I'm pleased to introduce our presenter for today's training, Don Ward. Don was born and raised in Central Texas and received his bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Texas A&M. He became a registered PE and has more than 35 years of civil engineering experience with public entities, including the City of Austin as the Disposal Services Manager, the City of Georgetown as their Utility Systems Engineer, Water and Wastewater Systems Manager, the City of Leander as the City Engineer / Director of Public Works, and most recently 13 years at Travis County as the Director of Road and Bridge / Fleet Services. In his position with Travis County, he managed multiple service centers, was responsible for the roadway and drainage maintenance of more than 1,300 miles of roads throughout Travis County, managed 200 employees, and served as Travis County's road maintenance liaison and emergency contact for the City of Austin and Travis County Emergency Operations Center. He is now employed as the engineering sales manager for Pavement Restoration Inc. Don, a couple interesting things here. Don has provided civil engineering services to foreign countries, including Paraguay, Mexico, and Sri Lanka, through the International City and County Management Association. And lastly, he is married and has 2 grown Aggie children. All right.
Yay. Don. Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity to do this, and I welcome everybody to the webinar, and hope you had a great Thanksgiving and everybody's going on to Christmas. So thanks for joining us. I really appreciate that. This is really a topic about pavement preservation, which I've really, I think since I was at Travis County, really I found out that that's something that a lot of entities are really don't know a whole lot about, what to do, what's available, what's out there. So hopefully this will give you an idea of a very economical way to do that and keep your road system in good, healthy conditions. So number one, everybody sees their road, taxpayers, all this sort of thing. This is what they expect their road to really look like. I mean, everybody wakes up every morning and thinks, man, that's exactly the way my road should look. And, you know, if that's a collector arterial road, that's what you expect. Your residential, this is a residential road. This is what you think you should walk out and walk your dog, your kids, and have your kid ride on their scooter down the street, not have a problem. We might not have these mountains here in Austin, but, you know, that's a beautiful backdrop. So, you know, this is our expected condition. And, you know, you pay your money to the government, the city, county, that's what you want. Unfortunately, over time, this is what happens. And I am very familiar with this little section of roadway. It's about 4 blocks from my house. That's a picture that I took off of Google Earth probably in 2015. And if anybody wants to see some over the time, I guess, undesirable conditionings develop, give me an email and I'll send you some of these pictures. But yeah, this is what happens. What you see is the oxidation. And don't get me wrong, when you put crack seal in, it's one of the most effective things to do. It seals those cracks. It keeps water from getting in there, but it doesn't look really, really well. This is another condition. You know, this is a little past the crack seal. This is what we refer to as alligator cracking. And the root cause of this is basically your pavement has deteriorated to such an extent that these cracks are forming. Now these cracks have opened up. You're getting water into your base material, probably down into your subgrade material. And your only option in this situation basically you got to tear it up and start over, which is a very expensive option. So if you can, any sort of manner, delay having to do that, save your taxpayers a whole lot of money, it's something to really think about. So what you see here, you know, this pavement may be 15, 20 years old, who knows, but it's a condition that is going to be very costly to repair, and it's going to cause, you know, delays in traffic. You're going to have to close that roadway down, maybe the entire roadway, to do this. So it's a real big issue. So why are we here today? Why are we talking about pavement preservation? Well, the first thing, like I was talking earlier, it's extremely cost effective, and it's a greener approach to getting the longest life out of your roadway. And when I say greener approach, you know, you're not using as much construction equipment. It's easier on the fuel. The actual, I guess, the environmental effects, if anybody's been out on a hot mix job, you know you have a whole lot of volatiles going on out there, but that's part of the construction. If you've got a pavement preservation, there are products out there that really don't get into the VOCs, don't get into a whole lot of truck traffic, a whole lot of this, but you have to do it at an earlier time frame. And again, you want to get the longest life out of your roadway. Your engineer is going to design your roadway and tell you, well, it's got a 20-year life. Well, at year one, it starts deteriorating. If you can get 20 years out of it these days, you're lucky. Usually at year 10, you're going to start seeing some effects of these cracks. You have to go back in and crack seal. You might have to do a chip seal. You might have to do a microsurface. But the whole reason you want to get your best dollar for the longest period of life. Again, we're talking about you and me. You know, these things aren't going down. The taxpayer dollar is what's out there. That's what funds these things. And just my example, I know I've been in my house for 25 years. My tax bill has gone from $1,500. I just paid it this week. It's $6,700 now. So it's not going to go down. It's going to keep going up. So that's what you want to do. The greenhouse gas emissions, we talked about that a little bit. This is a greener way to do things. Pavement preservation helps reduce those greenhouse gas emissions, and that's what, you know, our whole planet. We want to save our planet. We want to do things the right way. We want to cut down the ozone stuff. And doing this, it's going to consume less energy. What I've talked about is, you know, it takes a lot of energy for these hot mix plants to run. It takes a lot of energy when you're doing 20, 30 truckloads, bringing that hot mix out, all the equipment necessary to do it. That's a lot of stuff. So if you can cut down on some of that, you've got a win-win situation. Plus, again, you're extending that life of that roadway. And believe it or not, it's faster. I guarantee you can go through and by just doing pavement preservation, boom, boom, you're in and out. You know, sometimes in a couple hours, you've got a whole subdivision completed and you're done for 5 years. So, you know, you're not closing the roadways. You're not putting your residents in inconvenience. You're not saying, okay, well, we got to shut this road down for 6 or 8 or 24 hours. And, well, that's an inconvenience, but you're going to have a new, more expensive roadway when it's done. Well, if you can do it in such a manner where you're not inconveniencing things, you're making the whole process quicker, I guarantee you your constituents are going to like you a whole lot more. They're going to be very happy with you, and that phone's not going to ring off your wall. So again, we've talked about the why do a pavement preservation program. So this is really your objectives. And again, these pictures I'm very familiar. I took all these pictures myself. That picture is at the bottom is another one that's got a lot of crack seal. That road was built the same time as my subdivision roads, and we'll get into some of this a little bit later. But as you see, that's a stage right there. That's right before you need to start doing something major. So back to your objectives. Number one, prevention of oxidation of the pavement surface. Okay, when you get a brand new roadway, we saw that first picture is nice and black, and well, the stages of oxidation, you're going to see that roadway turn from black to gray to almost a white condition. Well, when it starts getting white, what's really happening is that asphalt binder and those asphalt oils and stuff, they're just leaching out of the surface. due to weather conditions, hot, UV, that sort of thing, they're leaving that pavement structure. So if you think about the glue that's holding that pavement structure together, whether it's 2 inches, 3 inches, whatever, it's leaving. It's going out of there. So you want to prevent this oxidation. Also, you want to decrease the viscosity of the asphalt binder. Sometimes this is a little hard for me to get my head around. Once you're decreasing this viscosity of something, it becomes more flowable. So if you think about molasses, if you heat up molasses, it's going to have a reduction in viscosity. It's going to be more flowable than that cold molasses. That's exactly what you want to see in your pavement preservation program. You want to see a reduction in the viscosity of that pavement structure. And I'm talking about, you know, the 1 to 2 to 3 inches of that surface. It's called flexible pavement, and it's called flexible pavement for a reason, because it's got a reduced viscosity. And if you can keep that pliable and flexible, you've done your job. So what you want to see is you want to see that decrease in the asphalt binder. Increase in flexibility. That ties into this. So again, hot mix roads are called flexible pavement versus concrete, which is rigid pavement. Flexible pavement, you want to see it move. You want to see it be able to take that beating, be able to, you know, sustain that. It's not rigid. Again, prevent the formation of cracks in the surface. This is probably the number one thing that's going to lead you to the detrimental breakdown of your pavement surface. You start getting these cracks, they're hairline, they get bigger, 1/8, 1/4 inch, and the next thing you know, they're open up. They go down from your pavement structure to your base material and then all the way down to your subgrade. So when that happens, you're really in trouble. We talked about the alligator cracking before. That's kind of the last step before you got to tear it up and start over. So you want to prevent those cracks in the pavement surface from occurring. That's why you see this crack seal on this picture down here. They've got the cracks. They're trying to keep that crack under control. They haven't prepared themselves to prevent those cracks, so they're treating them after the fact. Again, prevent the loss of fines and raveling and pitting of the pavement surface. We don't see a whole lot of this here in Texas. Really, where you see this is when you get the colder temperatures and you get that freeze-thaw effect. You start losing the aggregate on the surface of the pavement, and it'll get rough. It'll look almost like a chip seal where you've had a hot mix paved surface. You're going to lose that rock. You're going to lose those fines, and yeah, you'll start having pitting. And again, it's almost real similar to the cracking, but that's something you don't see a whole lot in warmer climates. I think it's more in the colder climates that you see that. So these are your objectives. Now, this is something that I have done a lot of speaking engagements since I've been with Pavement Restoration. And one of the things that's really interesting to me is that middle block on the second row with the green dyed line around it. That's the block that's missing in most folks' pavement preservation program. Yeah, they do some sort of pavement preservation, routine maintenance. You might do the crack seal like we just saw in those other pictures. Filling and patching, you might do some chip seals, seal coats, slurry seals, something like that. You might even have a program where you're doing a complete mill and overlay. But a lot of folks just don't have this middle block where you're actually treating an asphalt structure with a rejuvenation product to keep it stable. You're reducing the viscosity, you're increasing the flexibility. So that's the block that's missing. In fact, the very first technical presentation I did, I had a group of fellows that I knew very well, worked for a pavement management company. They came to me and said, hey, we want you to come give this presentation to our group. And I kind of was looked back at them and said, well, guys, you do this for a living. You ought to know about this. So really what I'm seeing just by talking to folks and doing these presentations, it's the lack of knowledge about what this pavement preservation might be for you, what it consists of, and how you go about making it happen for your entity. One of the things that I really want to stress to everybody is you'll see this, and this is not my graph. This is provided by the Pavement Preservation Recycling Alliance. Basically what it is, it's a deterioration curve of hot mix pavement, and you're probably very familiar with this curve And what I want you to understand is you got to stay ahead of this curve. You can't let your basically deterioration get down there in the the very poor condition, because that's where you're going to really start spending big bucks. So if you take, for example, a 20-year pavement life, and that's, again, what your engineer is going to design for you, and if you put that roadway down and, okay, it's going to be good for 20 years, well, look what happens the first 15 years of that pavement condition. You're going to start at 100. The 100 is perfect. That's brand new, right out of the box. So as you go down, your condition is going to drop. In that first 15 years, it's going to drop to a 60 PCI. So you've gone from 100 PCI down to 60 PCI. Yeah, that 60 is not too bad. It's still in a good condition. It hasn't hit that poor. There's still things you can do out there, keep it in good shape. But basically, you haven't done anything in 15 years, and you've dropped that 40% in pavement quality. Well, look what happens in the next 5 years. My goodness, 5 years, you're going to drop another 40%. Well, when you get to 50 PCI, you're going to have to do something. If you let it go down to that 20 PCI, you can't hardly drive on a roadway. It's just in such a poor condition that you're not going to get any travel out of it. You're going to get a lot of headache, and it's going to be extremely expensive when it gets to that point to do any sort of repair. So what you see, the first 15 years, you're going to drop 40%. The next 5 years, another 40%. So it happens very rapidly after that 15-year mark. So entity involvement opportunities, there's all sorts of things that your city, county, your client, whatever you want to talk about. One of the main things that I have felt is really, really important for you to do is a pavement management study. Whether it's a visual survey, whether it's a digital imaging survey, but you've got to have an idea of the condition of your roadway. You don't have an idea, where are you going to spend your money? Where are you going to, what's your first step? Where are you going to go? So the pavement management study gives you an idea. Yes, they are not inexpensive. In fact, when I was at Travis County, the first digital imaging study that I was able to get done at Travis County, I believe it was like $250,000. And we did them every 5 years. That was in 2005. And in 2015, it was a different study. It was more in depth. We did asset management. We had 3D imaging, whole lot of stuff that was extremely vital to the program, 1,300 miles, but it was $450,000. So you are making a decision to invest doing these pavement management studies, but I tell everybody it's extremely important. Then you develop your pavement preservation program. You've got the study. It tells you where your good, bad, poor, and ugly stuff is. You take that information, you go put it on a map, and okay, now we're going to start here. This is step one, maybe year 1, year 2, year 3, but you've got an idea. You can budget. You can go forward. You can, hey, I need to go to my elected officials. I need to go to my finance people. Here's what I need. This is going to keep my condition, my roadway condition, where we need to be for this pavement preservation program. It will also allow you, there's going to be places where you're going to have to do a CIP project. You're going to have to do an engineered program improvement of the roadway. It's just part of the thing. That road's going to get to that point where you've got the alligator cracking, where you've got this. So you're going to have to get your in-house engineer or your consultant or whatever to go in and look at, maybe do some borings, maybe figure out what's down below, what's your subgrade, what's your base, what's causing the breakdown. But because you're doing this pavement preservation program, you're putting money in the bank. You're putting money in the bank to assist you down the road when you have to do one of these capital improvement projects. So you'll have the money. You may have to go to a bond, but it also allows you to have this flexibility to do stuff. And again, what we're talking about, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but we are wanting to extend the value of the infrastructure for your taxpayer, your residents, the people that support you. So that's where you want to get to. And you're saving that taxpayer dollar. Doing these payment management studies, developing the program, yeah, it's going to extend the payment, but you're also saving them money where you can put money into other things. And then you get this guy. He's happy, man. You start filling him up. He's a happy guy. Talk a little bit about this one. This slide here is typically what you would think your hot mix roadway is combined of. You've got your aggregate, then you've got your asphalt. Typically, I would say that was a pretty good slide for maybe 10, 12 years ago. These days, when you get the refining industry, they take everything out of the asphalt, out of the oil. So the refining process, you're getting a lower quality, and this is not anybody's fault. This is just economics. You're getting a lower quality asphalt than you got 15 years ago. So you're getting the bottom of the bottom, so to speak, when that boat comes into the refinery. That's what you're getting. So it may be less than 6%. And again, a lot of entities allow their contractors and hot mix contractors to include RAP into this mix. What is RAP? Recycled asphalt pavement. The binder in there, can you even see the binder? Basically, it's ground up, it's dry. So that 6%, if you're adding 10, 15, 20, 30% into this, you're adding old binder. So again, you're getting a poor quality asphalt structure into that hot mix that comes from the plant. Yes, it will save you money, no doubt about it. I did it at Travis County, saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars by allowing this RAP introduction into the contract mix. So it does. It will save you money, but the double-edged sword is you're going to have a breakdown of that pavement a lot sooner because you're going to have a drier mix coming out of that truck, being put on the roadway. So you're going to have to develop your pavement preservation. It's going to jump on that within a few years. These things here, this is really the components that you're talking about when you look at a kind of an asphalt mix, asphalt cement mix. You got your stable compounds, that's the black stuff. The reactive compounds that I talked about leaving and leaching out, those are the clear products. Those are the ones that you're going to have to deal with, and that's what you do with a pavement preservation program or rejuvenation product, that sort of thing. You get those maltine reactive components, you need to replace those, so that's what you do. These are some values that I took out myself. I've done this research, so this isn't from anybody's, basically Texas, I would say. So the value of your roadway system, and this may shock you, what a lot of folks don't, and probably your constituents don't know, it's what's the value of your roadway system? It will shock you what it is. You start building a 2-lane rural roadway, and you're going to spend $2 to $3 million per mile. Now that's purchasing the land, that's the construction, that's the utilities. Typically, you may have to move, so you're jumping up there. If you've got to redo maybe 10 miles, okay, you got $30 million hanging around? Probably not. 2-lane urban roadway, you're jumping it up here. It's really going to start getting up because you've got a whole lot of other factors involved. So you've got more, utility, you've got curb and gutter, you've got sidewalks you've got to put in. So yeah, it gets jumping up really quick. This will really scare you. You start getting into a rural interstate freeway, $7 to $8 million a mile. Oh my gosh, it's really expensive. And you think about the congestion these days and driving around Austin. I talked to a guy the other day. He said he had a business trip to LA. He got on the freeway at 4 o'clock in the morning, 8 lanes of traffic, and it was already bumper to bumper. So, it is what it is, but it's also expensive when you have to start rebuilding these roadways, adding more capacity, that sort of thing. And then you get into an urban interstate freeway. Oh my gosh. Mopac, some of the construction around here that I don't even have a guess as to what the cost might be. So it's really up there. So the value of your roadway system is big bucks. It's probably the biggest asset that any entity has. They don't really think about it, but at Travis County, 1,300 miles of roadway, it was a big asset. So your pavement maintenance options, what are your options? What do you have in your bag? What can you do? And, the number one thing that I think of being with Travis County was a chip seal. We used an HFRS2P emulsion plus a grade 6 trap rock. Great product. It was black, but I guarantee you the phone will ring off the hook when you go and chip seal a hot mix roadway in a neighborhood. People are going to be so upset. Why did you put a gravel road on my paved road? That's exactly what they think. But if you explain to them what the process is of a chip seal, that emulsion, it seals that surface. You've got a complete seal on that surface. You're adding another aggregate to the top. So when it gets smooth and polished, you're giving more friction to that surface. So when people drive around, their car's not going to run off in the rain. It's going to be better. But constituents do not see it in this manner. It's unfortunate. It takes a lot of explaining, and the smaller aggregate you use, the better you're going to like it. And also, if you can pick a black aggregate, they're going to like that also. Microsurface is another good product. You know, it's a little bit more expensive than a chip seal. The thing that I've seen with microsurface, you tend to have a delamination. So you're going to have to do it more frequently. You're going to have to do it on a 4 or 5 year cycle. So you're going to have to redo that microsurface because it's probably going to come up. And I've seen evidence in lots of cities around that's happened. Overlay. You get to the point where, okay, I've got to put another structure on this roadway. You've got alligator cracking. You've got so much crack seal that it looks like spider web. Your surface has really got to have something put on it and overlay. That's your choice. And typically you'll have to do a mill with that overlay. So it's not only you're paying for one thing, you're paying for two maintenance processes. In-place recycling. I like this real well. It's in and fast, easy. It is expensive, but it's an option out there that you just have this train and they make one pass. They chew it up, put it back down, add some additional asphalt to it, and you're done. You're ready to go. Usually in, you know, I don't know how many miles they can do a day, but they can do quite a bit in a residential area. Full depth reconstruction. This can be a nightmare. Yeah, it's got to the point where we saw that alligator cracking roadway earlier. That's what you're going to have to do. Very expensive. You've got to close the road. It takes a lot of effort to do this. The one thing that most folks are missing are these rejuvenation seals, what we've talked about. It's a very simple process, extends the life, it's very economical. You're not going to tie up your roadway. You're not going to be having closures, that sort of thing, in and out done and for a very economical price. So the cost of maintenance, this is where we're going to start raising some eyebrows here. Chip seal, typically $2 to $4 per square yard. Again, it's going to be the size of the program that you've got. If you're doing 1,000 feet versus 10 miles, it's going to be a whole lot more to do that 1,000 feet. So it's really, you got to compare size of project, the type of emulsion that you're using, the type of aggregate. You know, the more expensive, smaller aggregate, which a trap rock is way more expensive than a dolomite, so you're going to spend more. So it can vary quite a bit. Microsurface, same way. It can vary quite a bit. Typically, you're going to see, you know, 1 or 2 companies out there that can do this, but typical range is $3 to $4 per square yard. Thin overlay, that's when you get into your Tom mixes, your F mixes, that sort of thing. It's a small structural, you know, maybe 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, so you're not really putting a whole lot of structure down. Basically, it's cosmetic, but it's helping your surface, it's sealing the surface, but again, you're going to spend lots of dollars for it. You get into the in-place recycling. Again, like I talked about, you're going to jump up $10, $12 per square yard. Mill and overlay, that's when you're really starting to get up there. The full depth reconstruction, you know, depending on how you do it, what you do, how deep you go, it's all over the place. But prepare yourself. It's going to be very expensive. When you get into an asphalt multine rejuvenator, this is what you're looking at. Yeah, you're probably going to have to do it every 5 or 6 years. But $1 versus these other costs, very reasonable. Conventional plan, typically what you're going to do on a 25-year roadway, you know, these are unit costs, cost and dollar, future cost. Typically what you're going to spend over that 25 years on that roadway, almost $2 million. And 30,000 square yards, that's probably close to a mile, mile and a half, something like that. So that, depending on your width, that's usually what you're going to cost for that life cycle. And again, I didn't provide these graphs. This is provided by Pavement Preservation and Recycling Alliance. Now you get into an optimized plan where you use a pavement rejuvenator. That same 30,000 square feet, wow, 251,000 versus almost 2 million. Big difference. Here's your difference, almost $1.7 million. So you've got a lot of savings that you can refer to by doing this. And again, this is similar to that curve I talked about. You want to stay ahead of the curve. By just doing these treatments, you're just pushing out your curve. You're not seeing that blue dot get very far down on your PCI. And who knows how long. You can keep that roadway 20, 30, 40 years. Might be able to get more. But you're just continually pushing that curve out to the right. So you're staying up at the good, the excellent, the fair of your PCI, which typically you're going to be at 60 or above. That's where you want to stay. And your roadway is going to stay in good condition. Again, this is the thing, pavement management process I talked about, your visual surveys. Really important. One of the things that we do for our clients, we'll go and review their roadways. We'll give them a rating. But it's something that you really need to do. You really got to know what's out there. Put it on a map, put it in a report, somehow have that information so you can make those decisions. Visual is a great way. If you don't have a whole lot of money, you can do that. It's not very difficult. This is the one that really is going to give you the tremendous bang for your buck, the digital imaging survey. They typically, when we did those at Travis County, they went by, did this at night. The vehicle took a picture of the roadway every 6 seconds. And by the third one we did, they were able to do asset management. So you could pick up traffic signs, you could pick up culverts. That stereoscopic image every 6 seconds gave you a 3D image also. They took that information, then put it in our pavement management model, and I had a pavement management engineer on staff. I could ask him, hey, give me the pavement condition at 125 Podunk Road, and he could pull up a picture of it and look at it and say, yeah, Podunk Road at 2055 looks like this. Pull it up from your pavement management system. So it's a great tool, gives you a lot of information. Again, it's not cheap, but it is very, very helpful. This is an article, and I'd be glad to send anybody of these articles at all. When Travis County first started their pavement preservation program, I was approached by Pavement Preservation Journal to participate in this and just kind of give I call this my testimonial article. And what it does, it just tells how Travis County got involved in it, what was involved, where we went, how we did. We started our program in 2005, 2006, and it's still going today. They do anywhere from 28 to 100 miles a year, depending on budget. But I'd be glad to send you a copy of this article, not a problem. So let's talk a little bit about the case study when I was at Travis County. What happened? What really implemented this pavement preservation program for the county? Well, number one, we had forecasted budget shortfall. We had a condition where our funding mechanism changed at Travis County, and it actually changed for every county in the state of Texas. What happened was we had a change in the legislature that allowed part of your road and bridge fund to go to the general fund instead of being strictly for the road and bridge. We got revenue from vehicle sales tax and a little bit from vehicle registration. Well, the legislature changed because the larger counties in Texas were shrinking. You talk about Harris County, Travis County, actually Travis County wasn't shrinking, it was expanding, but Harris County, Tarrant County, Dallas, some of these, so the suburbs were growing, so the county road and bridge fund was continually having excess. The counties couldn't spend that money on anything else, according to the rules, couldn't spend it on a general fund, couldn't spend it on parks. So what happened, they changed up a little bit. So now part of the road and bridge fund went to the general fund, and you had to ask for it back. Well, Travis County, I believe over 6 years when this was implemented, the road and bridge revenue fund went from $24 million to $16 million. So that was a big hit. Also in 2008, we had those horrible rising oil prices. So I had a real dilemma on my hand. I had 1,300 miles of roadway to maintain, and I'm losing money. How am I going to do that? Am I going to keep my job? Well, the first thing we did, we implemented this digital imaging pavement survey to see where our system was at. That was the number one thing. So we implemented that. We also had a mandated pavement condition requirement for Travis County. So for the 1,300 miles of roadway, it was mandated by the Commissioner's Court to keep our entire 1,300 miles at an average of 70 PCI or better. 70 PCI is really good condition for 1,300 miles. Very difficult thing to do. So, you know, the dilemma for me was, how do I do that? What am I going to do? So what we found out by the reduction in that funding, this is what was going to happen to us. We were going to have to go from 90 miles of chip seal to 50 miles of chip seal. 44% decrease in that maintenance effort. That's a lot. 55 miles of overlay to 30 miles of overlay, 45% decrease. And then you had 15 miles of full depth reconstruction to 5 miles, 67%. So you take all those into consideration, we took a big hit. It was huge. So, you know, again, the dilemma, what are you going to do? Well, I did a ton of research. The guy that owns this company came to my office. He was talking to me about pavement preservation products. I said, well, where can I go do this? I did my own research with Travis County's assistance. I traveled to Florida, flew to Florida, spent a couple of weeks over there, visited different counties, different companies that had been doing this. So that's what I did. I put 2 weeks of research into what to do. We performed trials. We performed trials with these products and found out that we were going to have some success. So we found success with these asphalt maltine rejuvenators. And so we went and initiated the annual pavement rejuvenation program. Great thing, first year. So what we did, we found this product, preservative, Reclamite, that's what we were using. So after 11 years with the rejuvenation program, and I'm very familiar with this street. In fact, to the right of that curb and gutter is my house. That roadway was the first one treated in, or one of the first ones treated in Travis County back in, I believe, 06. And at the time, this street was probably about 13 years old, 12 to 13 years old, built in the early 90s. Not much surface distress. And if you can look at this picture, yes, it is oxidized. It is white. It's not black. But you don't see any cracks. You don't see, you know, minimal surface distress. You don't see any alligator crack. You don't see anything like that. So it had that first treatment. This picture, I believe, was taken in 2017. So you can see it's had 3 treatments, 2006, 2011, 2016. So it's had 3 treatments. Travis County's basically spent $3 and some change on this roadway. It's a 30-year roadway now. It's 2019, and I can go out there and look at this street. It looks exactly the same as this today. So this is the picture I showed you earlier, and this is 11 years without a rejuvenation program. And you can see what's happened. You saw the street right next to my house. No surface distress, no crack seal. Here's the street. You've got the surface distress. You've got the crack seal. That street now has been, it's had a chip seal added to it. You don't see a whole lot of the you know, crack seal material anymore. It's been covered up. It is starting to reflect through. And the roadway surface is rough. You can drive over it. It's not smooth. You're going to feel what you're driving over. So one of the things that we did was, number 1 year was 28 miles. Found out that was very successful. We jumped right in, so that was great. From year 2 to 12, and actually it's been longer than 12 now. I think Travis County's been in the program for 14 years. So depending, again, on their budget, Travis County does 28 to 100 miles of pavement rejuvenation with Reclamite every year. And what's really interesting, and this kind of shocked me, and I was not prepared for this answer, but in 2005, when we did our pavement management survey, our digital survey, the overall PCI for Travis County for that 1,300 miles was about 71, which is still, that's above the 70 that was our mandated condition. 2015, and you go back to all that reduction of maintenance effort that we had, the reduction in chip seal, the reduction in the overlays, the reduction in full depth reconstruction, anywhere from 44 to 67% reduction in the county's maintenance effort. 2015, our overall PCI for Travis County was close to 78. So it's like, wait a minute, we reduced all this stuff, but our pavement condition went up? Oh, wait, we started doing pavement preservation. We started using reclamite. So yes, it did improve. It helped our condition. It kept it from, going down that curve that you don't want to go down. So the benefits that you're going to get of this asphalt multine rejuvenator, and we've talked about this quite a bit, it's going to renew that hardened, brittle asphalt pavement. That's the number one thing you want to see. You want to see that reduction of brittleness, losing the, cracks forming, that sort of thing. Slowing the oxidation and the aging process of your pavement. Again, this is something I didn't mention a whole lot, but it's going to seal and densify that asphalt surface. When I go and take cores after we do a project, I typically go a couple months later, you can actually visually see that densification in the surface of that core. You can see where that asphalt has reduced in the viscosity, and it's just a denser looking surface. Again, the reduction of the loss of fines and rounding. Now, I see a whole lot of that in Central Texas, I don't think, but yeah, in your colder climates, you'll see that. So that's a benefit also. Rejuvenates the binder within that structure. That's what you want to see. Your structure, whether it's 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, you want to see that binder remain flexible. You want to see it have a reduction in viscosity. That's going to keep it young. And I tell everybody, it's like, think about putting lotion on your skin. That's what's happening. That lotion is going to get in your skin. It's going to help that dryness. It's going to help your skin rejuvenate. You're extending the service life of the roadway. We beat this one a while, but that's really what you want to do. Your service life is the important thing. Push it out there as far as you can. And it's inexpensive versus the other maintenance. We've talked about that. I've showed you the prices. So what you're going to do is you're going to economically, that's the best option for you. Again, here's another article, and I can send you this one. This is a really good article. It wasn't a lot of PhD guys in there, but it's just a basic generic article about what is an asphalt multine-based rejuvenator. Very good. If you get this publication, you probably go back and look at it. Great article, and it talks about, just the product itself and what it does. A little bit of the sales pitch here. This is what our company does for you. So we'll go out and we'll do a road audit. We'll do a test. We put out notification to the resident, tell them what's going to happen, where they're going to see this thing, the product application, the sanding. We put a light coating of sand just to help the friction. Typically, it breaks within 35, 45 minutes. You put the sand on it. We sweep the sand up the next day. We do the full traffic control. Then I come back and take core samples. Typically 6 to 8 weeks later, we send those off for analysis. This is our absorption test. We make sure we're getting the right amount of rejuvenator on the street for you. We don't want to over, we don't want to under. So this is what we'll do, a ring test to make sure you get it right. An example of our resident notification, English and Spanish, we send it out. It's got our payment, our number on it, our manager that's on the job. You're going to talk to him. Again, these are the cores that I was talking about. Very interesting thing to do. And I don't know of any contractor out there will go out and take you a core of their, project afterwards. And so what we do, we send this off to a lab in California, APART, Asphalt Paving and Recycling Technologies, and they test it for a reduction in viscosity and an increase in penetration, both ASTM specifications, ASTM standard tests. So it's very good. Been using the same lab for the whole time we've been in business, so it's great results. And typically you want to see a 45% reduction in viscosity and an increase in 25% in the pin depth. So again, your advantages. Left is a picture of what my street looks like. Right is what you don't want to see at the bottom. So it restores a proper balance between the 5 asphalt multine components. Restores the flexibility and ductility of the top portion of the old and brittle pavement. Stops the raveling and the stripping of the aggregate, which again, don't see a whole lot of that. seals that surface. Number one thing you want to do is keep that surface, keep air and water out of that pavement structure. Number one road ruin is you start getting those cracks, that water, all that stuff in there, you're down to bad stuff. So you're into these benefits. Each application is going to extend that pavement life 4 to 6 years. So you're going to get a little bit of an extension of that life, higher rate of return on your investment, minimal disruption in traffic. You're not doing a big construction project, so you're not going to have to be closing roads, that sort of thing. Cost-effective or proactive maintenance. You do this, you're making a commitment to preserve that roadway. Typically, no road marking expenses. When you do a Maltine rejuvenator, paint comes right back through. It doesn't disrupt it. It doesn't work on concrete, so it's not going to hurt the concrete. If you get a little bit on the curb, it'll dissipate within a couple of weeks. And you freeze up your client's resources. And again, then you're on the road to happiness. So that's where you want to be. You know, if you can keep your constituency happy, you've done your job. And I guess it's any time for questions. And there's my card, my information. So at any time, feel free to call me. Whatever you would like to do, it's not a problem. So it's been my pleasure. I do have a short video that I'd be glad to show you here, if you think, Mike, would that be all right?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and cue that up and give people a couple minutes to type in any questions they may have.
Okay, that sounds great. And this is done by Tricor Refining, which is the actual company that makes the Reclamite, that sends it out to different companies, and there's applicated across the U.S. So this is coming from them. It's not a pavement restoration video.
Deteriorating asphalt roads create both budgetary shortfalls and safety hazards. Tricor Refining has the answer. Reclamite is the solution you've been looking for to help maintain high pavement condition index ratings. It's been proven to extend the life of asphalt pavement up to 30 to 40%, allowing you to avoid the constant upkeep of failing roads and save big on roadway maintenance costs. How does it work? Reclamite is much more than just an asphalt sealer. It actually helps to restore the components of asphalt lost over time and from exposure to the elements. Formulated from petroleum maltine, the component which makes asphalt both sticky and flexible, Reclamite is applied to asphalt surfaces where it penetrates and combines with the existing asphalt binder, helping to restore those maltine components that are lost through aging and repeated exposure to the elements. This densifies the binder, helping to seal and waterproof the surface as well as seal hairline cracking, dabbling, and stigmatization issues. Unlike more expensive wear core seals, Reclamite is all about extending and pushing out the maintenance curve as long as possible. No other rejuvenator has demonstrated the same roadway preservation success or proven to have a comparable national rejuvenation distribution network. For over 50 years, Tricor Refining has been producing Reclamite using a single source and authentic crude from California's San Joaquin Valley. Countless clients have saved their budget by applying our signature paint rejuvenator to roadways across North America. Reclamite goes down big, keeps your roads in the black. Call or email now, plus visit us online for more information.
Okay, that's about all I've got for you, Mike. And like I said, I appreciate the opportunity this morning. It's been great.
All right. Well, I don't see any questions that have come through. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. And thank you to Don for our presentation.